We can finally respect the topography. That's right, contour lines have been added to Cities Skylines 2 since the previous video. And these weren't on the roadmap, so I want to give Colossal Order a huge round of applause for adding them based on community feedback. And speaking of the previous video, you all guessed the name of the city that we were recreating in about 10 seconds flat. It's Marymount, Ohio, a community that was master planned by John Nolan, the same gentleman that planned Venice, Florida, which we recreated in Cities Skylines a while back. If you missed that video or the previous Cities Skylines 2 video, I'll leave links to both in the video description. But in today's video, we're going to begin deviating from John Nolan's plan as we significantly grow our city until we reach the Big Town Milestone. We're going to be adding a ton of services, including public transit, communications infrastructure, a college, and a number of parks. We'll also link our highways with an arterial couplet and create an interchange in our industrial district. And we're going to fix a few issues from the previous episode based on new tips and tricks that I've learned since then. And if you're happy that we finally have another video in this series, hit the like button and let me know down in the comments what you're most excited about in Cities Skylines 2. Or if you're feeling bashful, just leave an emoji letting me know how you feel about the game for the sake of engagement. So let's kick things up by making a couple of fixes to the build. First, I'm going to fix the orientation of residential buildings. For the row homes, this means determining the direction I'd like the buildings to face, then dezoning a 1-unit strip along the side streets until the row homes begin construction on the correct street. After that, the remaining land can be zoned and all the buildings will face the same direction. For single-family homes, I'm going to take a slightly different approach. Using the Replace tool, I'm going to swap out the 2-unit wide road with a 1-unit wide road. This allows me to pull the road that I do not want buildings fronting away from the zoning grid. Once the homes begin construction on the appropriate streets, I'm able to revert back to the original street once again, and the buildings will remain in place. Second, I want to make the lot sizes more orderly. In this area, for example, the lots are a mixture of 5 and 6 units deep. In reality, these parcels would likely be a consistent depth, so we'll use the most powerful zoning tool at our disposal to create the consistency that we're looking for, the humble sidewalk. I like to snap to the side of the lot that is the size that I want the rest of the lots to be, then I run the sidewalk to the roads. Third, I want to fix the roadway directionality of the couplets around the 2 allays, as well as around the town square. While replacing bidirectional roads with one-ways isn't quite as intuitive as it was in Cities Skylines 1, I do believe it's faster once you get the hang of it. To do this, using the Replace tool, you simply click and pull the road in the direction you want the one-way to go. Huge shout out to B. Squeikelhausen for helping me sort this out. If you haven't checked out his Cities Skylines 2 videos, I highly recommend them, and we'll leave a link to both in the video description. And finally, I want to fix this baseball diamond, I mean landfill. I got stuck in my Cities Skylines 1 brain thinking that this building needs to be on the side of a road, but in Cities Skylines 2, all ploppable buildings can be placed with or without a road. Pulling the landfill back a bit allows me to square up the edges and come up with a more logical layout for the facility. And while this is helpful with a landfill, this is probably most valuable with farms since it allows you to create square and rectangular farms with ease. So I took about 30 minutes to make these fixes throughout the city, and now things feel much more orderly. And while making these fixes, we reached the Tiny Town Milestone, which allows us to place mixed-use buildings, post offices, and telecommunications services. So let's move on to placing our communications infrastructure. Just like in Cities Skylines, as soon as city services become available, they become requirements. And that's why we have Maddie Kellner asking for the internet. She can't connect and she's losing her mind. We're going to solve this for you, Maddie. And to do that, we're going to pop into our communications menu. It has a couple of options available to us: postal services and telecommunications. For postal services, we can place mailboxes and the post office. And for telecommunications, where I want to go first, we can place a radio mast. Now, this radio mast transmits mobile data, radio, and TV signals, and during emergencies, it actually broadcasts the alarms out to citizens. So it's kind of a mixture of the Natural Disasters DLC and something brand new. Now, one thing that's really interesting about this is we now have this new menu which shows you the reach of the towers, and if we turn on our new contour lines, we can see that as we place this on a hill, the telecom coverage is greatly improved. All that said, this area right here is not ideal for us. We are going to be terraforming this momentarily, so we will need to place this deeper into our city, which is mostly flat. So we're going to place that right about here, and if we zoom in, we see that this needs a road. So I'll freely place this right here, and then we'll connect up to this with an alley. I want to pop back into the info view for a minute to see our coverage, and you can see this is not ideal. However, we can upgrade this. The first upgrade is bandwidth increase, which allows us to handle more network traffic. The second is wireless network antenna, which allows us to increase the service radius by 250 meters. I'm going to upgrade that right away, and you can see that as soon as I put that on here, we're covering most of the city. And if we want to cover the entire city, I think we need to add one more tower, and we'll add that near our industrial district. And you can see that this is immediately impactful. And then once again, I want to upgrade our wireless network antenna so we cover more. And for the most part, the city's in a good place. I think we could probably use one more antenna in this part of the community, but I think we'll hold off until we expand more. And next, I want to add a post office to the city. Now, one of the interesting things is that the noise pollution for the post office is low, so we should be able to place this near residential properties if we want. So I'm going to place that right here in the downtown area, kind of behind these row homes. There are a couple of add-on buildings for the post office, including a mail storage extension and a post van garage. The post van garage is very large, and I want it to fit nicely, and I think we got this in the right spot. If I were to add this, it would go right along the side here, and then we could add our mail storage extension either in the back or behind the post garage. So that's something you've really got to focus on in Cities Skylines too, because you don't want to place this in a place where you can't expand it in the future. This is a perfect location. I do want to check out our mailboxes though, just to make sure we have adequate coverage. And it looks like on the edges, we could place a mailbox or two. So right over here, let's place a mailbox on the side of the road, and that improves our coverage. These are very inexpensive. They give you 10 experience points that cost $100. You might as well place them. And you can see that now that we've placed all of this communications infrastructure, the city has the best internet connection ever, and Edna Anderson is loving it. So with all of that in place, let's move on to roadway network expansion. For this section, we're going to fall back on the John Nolan plan and create an arterial couplet linking our interstate and our highway over here. To begin, I want to revisit this area because with our contour lines, we can dramatically improve this now. Now we're going to take a break from this location. We're still connected via this road, so our city won't die, but I want to come up with where this will turn into. So I'm going to run a road behind our high school here, but first I want to terraform just a little bit. We're going to grab this height and basically flatten this right here because I really want a nice key wall. And now you get a good look at these key walls. It was fairly simple to create, but I don't want to go any further because I really want this road to act as a guide for us. So we are going to level some terrain, and now we can extend this out. And like I mentioned, this road will be the guide for our couplet, and I want to bring this nice and tight against those row homes that are already there. Now we need to figure out how we're going to loop from this road back to this new couplet. For the next segment of our couplet, we're going to focus on this area right here, and I basically want to run a couple of blocks up here and then run diagonal to those blocks to create the bounds of our downtown. And with that complete, let's quickly build out our grid. And that's looking pretty good, but I do want to use our development points to unlock a few assets, our roundabouts and our highways. And I want both of those so that I can fix these up. You can see that there are people parking on Lafayette Street, and we can grab a 2-lane highway and quickly upgrade these. And there's one more thing that I want to do with our roadway network, and that is improve this bridge right here. This is a pretty sad bridge in its current state. We've got this beautiful 4-lane tied arch bridge, and that is really spectacular. And with all of our roadwork complete, let's move on to zoning and adding our college campus. So let's unlock our college. That's one development point. And then in our parks and recreation development tree, I'm going to go nuts. We're going to unlock park maintenance, large parks, and sports parks. The first thing I want to do is place our college. And I think I want to be up here on this hill, so it's kind of resting above the city, maybe even centered with the city hall. We are going to need some more property. So let's buy a few extra tiles. And then while we're in here, let's also purchase some tiles for our interchange that we'll build a little bit later on in the video. Now I want to line up with these roads as best I can so that we have the exact same vista. So I'm going to try to follow this guideline and pull it out here. And that should be just about perfect right there. So now we can create a level pad for our university. And I think we could do something better than this. I kind of just placed it right on the road. We'll move this back using the relocate function. And I think that'll do the trick in terms of the layout, but let's add a bit of landscaping knowing how long this will take to fill in. And in my opinion, that looks pretty darn good. Switching gears a bit, one of the things that we're struggling with across the entire community is parks coverage. So let's place a variety of parks to try to improve our leisure availability. And as we place our basketball court, we reach Milestone 6 Boomtown. We're getting textile, fiber farming, heavy traffic ban, advanced pollution management, and loans. So I'm going to enable this, which will reduce the amount of air and ground pollution in the industrial areas, but it will increase the amount of garbage that's produced. But going back to our parks information, now that we've placed those couple of assets, we're in a pretty good place with our parks coverage, which leads me to want to zone everything in. And I do want to start using some of our mixed use zoning if we can. In fact, it looks like there's a whole bunch of struggling commercial right here, so why don't we start increasing our density in this area by placing our first mixed-use buildings right down here. And that has basically completely sapped our medium density residential demand, so let's switch gears and start zoning a whole bunch of low density housing. And then along this arterial, I do want to have a bit of commercial. Sometimes you just have to reserve land for uses that make sense, even if the demand isn't there right now. And then to clean up our zoning here, I did add some pedestrian paths, which gave us full depth buildings along this commercial corridor, which is something I absolutely love to do now. And I decided to fill in most of the zoning in this area, and I tried to mix it up a little bit, have a mix of densities and a mix of uses, and I think this is going to be a really vibrant area once it finally fills in. So we'll pivot to this area near the cemetery, and once again, I just want to go mostly low density residential over here. And I've added just a boatload of zoning throughout this entire area, and I've tried to be really deliberate with it. I've added a ton of landscaping and paths to try to straighten things out. And for the most part, things are looking really clean. We do have one issue that is cropped up. Our small coal power plant says that it is overloaded. So we'll grab our transformer station, and I think temporarily, I'm just gonna place it right next to our power plant, and we'll see if that resolves the bottleneck. And it looks like that has done the trick for us. And if we look back over here, we don't see any more bottlenecks. To me, this really drives home the need for another bridge across the river, not just for traffic, but also for utilities. But I think that for now, we're in a good place, and we'll move on to placing our public transit. The roadway layout of Moundsville leads me to believe that a hub-and-spoke transit network would be incredibly effective at serving this community. A hub-and-spoke network looks a little bit like a bike tire, where all the routes lead to a central hub, which will be our town square. And for the backbone of the system, we'll use trams, since these routes will likely never change. However, not every trip needs to go downtown. For instance, if you were trying to go from one end of Laurel Street to the other, a bus route might serve you better. And because of that, we'll also implement local bus routes as well. And for destinations like the landfill that would be difficult to serve with fixed route transit generally, we'll add a taxi depot. And all of this depot talk reminds me that we never added a road maintenance depot, so we're not able to clean up accidents or snow, so we should probably add one of those as well. I think it makes the most sense to place most of these depots on this side of the river nearest our downtown. This will cut down on deadhead or non-revenue service for the buses and trams, and it will prevent us from traveling through this bridge. Looking at our topography, I think there are really two suitable locations for this set of depots, right here and right here. And I'm inclined to place them right here because I don't want to take access from the highway. So let's begin by building a collector to all of these depots. Knowing that most of the trams are going to head right down this street, I'm going to try to keep our depots as close to this intersection as I can. And now we're ready to place our tram depot. Now that we have this, I just want to double check to make sure that our upgrades don't require additional space. And it looks like this upgrade stays within the footprint of this building, so we can add roads all the way around this if we want to. I'm going to add a road right here for our bus depot. Now I know offhand that our bus depot does have an upgrade, the extra garage, that does require more space. So we'll need to keep that in mind. We don't want to add that right now. It's not necessary. We also have our electric buses. Those operate within the footprint of the building, so no need to worry about that. And then the final depot I want to drop over here is actually our roadway maintenance depot. All of these would be city-owned buildings, so it makes sense to have them concentrated in one location to me. So we'll place that right here. And just as a reminder, the roadway maintenance depot is only available after you've unlocked advanced road services, which we unlocked in the previous episode. And finally, I will place a taxi depot. However, I'm not going to place it in our city services campus. I'm going to place this out in the industrial area because it's likely privately owned. Taxis generally aren't public transportation, unless of course it's a shared ride taxi. And this is another one of those facilities that has a garage extension, so that does require a bit of extra space, so you'll want to leave some space around the taxi depot. And now let's build our first tram route, and I absolutely love the way that this tool works. So you select the tram track that you want to use, you use the replace tool, and it's as simple as bringing this along the road, holding the button and dragging down. Now where this is an absolute dream is that you can go from a 2-lane road to a 4-lane road, and you don't have to switch roads. It's so simple to use. And now I'm going to switch over to a one-way tram track, and this is going to be a bit of a loop right here. It'll be the end of one of our routes. Now I want to do something a little bit different right here. You can reverse tram routes in Cities Skylines 2, however, you have to have the right type of road. So I'm going to upgrade this segment right here to be a bi-directional 4-lane road with a median. This is the only type of road that I've been able to figure out how to get a tram to turn around on, so keep that in mind. And now that we have all our tram tracks laid, we just need to add our stops. I'm going to try to add stops every 3 blocks and at key destinations. We'll also place tram stops opposite one another so you can get on or off in either direction. Now this is the portion of road where we have the median, so if we add one stop right here, you can see that it adds a cross track. We can do the exact same thing on the other side if we wanted to. We're not going to use them both, but it at least cleans up that blinking icon, and I'm a lot happier because of it. And now that we have our stops placed, we can use the tram line tool to make our routes. And would you check these things out? They are absolutely beautiful. It's really nice that the vanilla game comes with a great tram model and trams generally. So this is an excellent addition to the game in my opinion. And then if we wanted, we could adjust each of the tram routes. I just clicked on this tram right here, which is tram line 1. Change the assigned vehicles, change the schedule, the color, the ticket price, you name it, everything is customizable, not just the name. And I've gone ahead and adjusted all the routes, changing the colors to red, blue, and purple, and revising the number of vehicles on the routes. And one of the main reasons that I did this is I actually ran out of trams. Tram depots have a finite capacity, and in its default state, that's 10 trams. So that is super cool, and another reason why you should probably keep your tram depot very close to where you actually intend to operate the trams. And finally, I lowered the cost of all the tickets to $4, and we're starting to see the ridership jump, and I'm really happy to see it. Next, I want to create a couple of bus routes, and just like our trams, we need to place our stops first. But unlike our trams, we can place either a simple bus stop sign or a shelter. And now that we've placed all of our bus stop signs, let's place our bus routes. Now, one of the exciting things about this new bus routing tool is that you can actually add waypoints. So let's say I'm not really satisfied with the bus looping around this block because our trams are already there. I could add a waypoint right here, for instance, and now those buses will travel around this street. This is what I was always hoping to see in Cities Skylines, and I'm thrilled to see it in Cities Skylines too. And then, just like I did with my trams, I customized these, creating the green line and the gold line. Go pack, go. Now, one of the interesting things about bus routes is that you can actually change the vehicle model. There are normal buses and there are electric buses. We don't actually have the electric bus upgrade, so I'm not going to swap this over, although I'm not sure that it would do anything anyway. Also of interest, buses now carry 80 passengers, which is far more reasonable. And I'm thrilled to see this because it means that buses are now a viable form of public transit. And since we looked at buses, we'll take a look at trams too. 240 capacity. That is awesome. And finally, let's get our taxi depot working. Unlike in Cities Skylines, you can't just place down a taxi depot and expect taxis to start spawning. You have to either upgrade to a dispatch center, which will allow people to get picked up all over the city, or you have to place a taxi stand. There are two different types of taxi stands, a basic stand, and there is a shelter, just like for buses. Let's begin by placing a taxi stand. We'll place one right here, and we'll place one right here at the university. And immediately, taxis start spawning, and they're heading straight towards those taxi stands. And after letting this run for just a few minutes, we have over 2,000 passengers per month using public transit. So we're seeing some absolutely excellent utilization. And with our transit network complete, let's move on to building our interchange. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit nervous about this part because we're gonna create my first interchange on camera. We're gonna be building a trumpet interchange, so I want this to go up just far enough that we continue to have our walls, which appears to be about 7.5 meters. So we'll go 88 meters across, and now I'm really curious how far I'm gonna be able to slope this. But holy cow, it's letting me drag this out over 300 meters, and now it's a 0.8% grade. That is outstanding. Now for this other side, I'm returning to 7.5% to start. I'm gonna move up about 150 meters, and I'm gonna try to drop this down and keep the grade less than 4%. And we use the hill to drop down, and this looks absolutely outstanding. Look at that. We get the walls all the way along the side there. That looks really, really good. Now for this next part, I'm gonna grab a 1-lane highway ramp, and I'm gonna try to snap onto just 1 lane of this road. Holy cow, that is outstanding. And just like that, I've added an acceleration lane too. That is awesome. We did the exact same thing on the other side, and wow, it's so easy. So we've got 2 more ramps, and if we get these taken care of, we've built this thing really fast. Oh my goodness, that was just ridiculously easy. I finished this in 6 minutes flat, which is outstanding. And this isn't 100% perfect, but boy, oh boy, is it good. Now I do have to Wisconsin this up. We have our large roundabout, and you better believe I'm putting it right here, just to torment the semi-drivers apparently. And with that, I think it's time to move on to some rapid expansion. We began today's episode with a population of about 3,000, and we have more than doubled that. However, I think we can do even better, and I want to try to rapidly expand the population by using the grid tool and increasing our density in our downtown area. So we'll begin by using our grid tool over here by our bus depot and our tram depot. And we'll place a couple of blocks here. I think we can do a lot better though, but we're at our city limit boundary, so we need to purchase a couple more tiles. And I think I'll purchase these 6 right here, which should give us plenty of space to keep growing. This land is incredibly flat, so I think I can keep going back basically as far as I want to. And as we grid the entire city out, we reach milestone 7, busy town. This milestone gives us the gated community policy, ore mining, and a whole bunch of development points, which I'm really thankful about because we're about to spend all of them. But first, let's finish up our grid. And there we go, a fairly basic grid, but it shows you what you can do if you modify the grid tool a bit. Again, I'm not really sure that I'm going to use this tool a whole bunch, but it is okay in a pinch. Now that we have this neighborhood here, we should probably make sure that it has adequate city services before we zone anything in it. And I know this is going to be primarily residential, so I'm going to make sure we have enough school coverage. And I had a sneaking suspicion that we weren't in a good place with elementary coverage. And in fact, I think we could actually use a second one over here as well. So that helps out considerably, but we still have a coverage gap over here. I'm going to add 1 more elementary school while it's on my mind. And that solves most of our issues with elementary coverage. Now let's look at police and fire. And the creation of this neighborhood will leave a pretty considerable gap, so we will make sure that we add police coverage in our city services complex. And I also want to add fire coverage. And I love to keep these together. And then we also need to take a look at healthcare. Holy cow, our coverage is absolutely terrible. So we'll add in a clinic over here. And then for our telecommunications coverage, obviously not existent over here. So we will add in a tower right over in our city services complex. And that covers most of the neighborhood, but we'll likely need to upgrade it. So we'll add that wireless antenna upgrade once more. And that covers most of the neighborhood, but not everything. So we're gonna call a quick mulligan on this and relocate this. And the nice thing is it carries our upgrades with, so we can see what this looks like as we move it around. And that gives us excellent coverage all the way around here. And then before we add our zoning here, we also need to add some parks and leisure. And that's where I want to spend some of our development points. So we are going to purchase the large sports parks. And these large parks are amazing. We have an American football field, a soccer field, and a community pool. And I think that we could fit our American football field right here in this awkwardly shaped area. And why don't we add a community pool as well? And I basically decided to throw everything at this park. We've got everything from tennis courts to an outdoor gym, community pool, plaza, dog park, and a basketball court. And now that we have this, I think we are in a good place to start loading this area in with zoning. Now this area is really filling in quickly, so I think that maybe we want to take a detour to our downtown, start adding some density down here. And the way that I want to approach this is to rezone things. So we'll find things that are lower densities and just increase the density in that area. So for instance, this is low density commercial. We will rezone this to be mixed use residential. And I think we're going to take a quick pit stop because I really want to upgrade City Hall. So we will add the City Court, which increases the effectiveness of the local court system, which in turn brings the crime rate down. And we'll add the city planning offices because of course we have to. This will actually decrease the cost of building leveling by 5% citywide. So this is a huge improvement to the city. But reasonably, City Hall just looks so much better with its wings. I really like the way it looks. We've unlocked another signature building. This one actually reduces the crime rate in the neighborhood. We're gonna have to find an area that needs this and definitely place this in there. And I think I'm gonna place this right downtown. And it may seem strange that we're placing this building right here, but reasonably, we're gonna have a ton of density. So this will do more good in this location than anywhere else in the city. And at this point, I can't help but notice how much money we're making per hour. We should probably adjust our tax rates. It's one of the few things that's making our citizens unhappy. And interestingly, we're not even receiving a government subsidy anymore, so this is a natural surplus. So I'm gonna lower the taxes to 6%, which is where we're basically at in equilibrium, and all the extra revenue that we need, we'll get from reaching milestones. Would you look at that demand meter? Low density residential, commercial, and industrial are through the roof. And I think I know of a few places where we can build to soak this up. So the first one is right here, and I basically just added a residential neighborhood up the side of the river. Then near our cemetery, I added another residential neighborhood and a bridge across the river to a new industrial district. This helps us meet some of our demand and it solves our bottlenecking problem. And would you look at this bridge? This is absolutely outstanding. And just like that, we've reached the Big Town Milestone. And this milestone gives us our first high-density buildings. But unfortunately, we're going to have to place those next time because right now, we've got to take inventory of what we've done with a brief city tour. I let the city simulate while I was detailing, and would you believe it, we have almost 14,000 in population now, and we're making $40,000 an hour, so we can drop the taxes even further in the next one. And the longer I play this game, the more I get the feeling that this is a different game than Cities Skylines. It feels familiar, but it feels very fresh at the same time, and I've really been enjoying it. And I really hope that you've been enjoying these videos. If you have been, please hit the like button. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so, and I can't wait to see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.